The air was still, heavy with the scent of rain and memory. Heartland Ranch stood quiet under a gray sky, as if the world was holding its breath. Amy Fleming stood near Ty's old cabin, her hand resting on Spartan's mane, her eyes lost in the horizon. She had dreamed of this moment countless times, Ty walking back through those gates, but dreams always faded when morning came. Yet tonight, something felt different. The sound of a familiar truck engine broke through the silence. Her heart skipped. The tires crunched on gravel, headlights slicing through the mist. The door opened, and for a heartbeat, Amy couldn't move. The man who stepped out looked older, worn, and haunted. But those eyes, she'd know them anywhere. Ty Borden had come home. The sound of the truck still echoed in Amy's mind as she stood frozen, unable to breathe. Spartan shifted beside her, sensing the change in her heartbeat. Ty's boots hit the ground slowly, each step heavy with years of distance. He stopped a few feet away from her, the cold wind carrying his voice. Amy. Her name trembled on his lips like it didn't belong to him anymore. Amy's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move closer. The pain of years apart, the loneliness, and the sleepless nights, all of it came flooding back at once. Jack stepped out of the barn, his face pale under the porch light. His eyes widened when he saw Ty standing there. For a moment, Jack said nothing. He just looked at the men he once called family, the man they all mourned. Finally, his voice broke through the night. My God, it's really you. Lou appeared at the door, holding a mug of coffee that slipped from her hand and shattered on the porch. Lisa gasped, covering her mouth in disbelief. And from behind Amy, a soft, curious voice spoke up. Mommy, who's that? Lyndy's small hand tugged at Amy's sleeve, her innocent eyes staring at the stranger who suddenly seemed so familiar. Amy's lips trembled as she whispered, That's your dad, sweetheart. Ty knelt down slowly, tears blurring his vision, as he met his daughter's gaze for the first time. Hey, kiddo, he said softly, his voice cracking. You've gotten so big. Lyndy tilted her head, studying him, then smiled shyly. Mom says you're in heaven. The words cut through the air like a knife. Ty's heart shattered, his body trembling with guilt. He swallowed hard. No, baby, I was just lost. But I'm here now, I promise. Jack stepped forward, placing a hand on Ty's shoulder. You've got a lot of explaining to do, son. Ty nodded, his eyes fixed on Amy. I know. I was in Mongolia again, working with sick animals. Things went wrong. I got hurt. And after that, I wasn't myself anymore. I couldn't face coming back until I was sure I could stay. His voice cracked under the weight of truth. Amy's tears finally fell. She wanted to scream, to hit him, to ask why he let them suffer. But all she could do was whisper, You came back. Ty looked at her, his expression raw and full of regret. I couldn't stay away any longer. The silence that followed was thick with everything they'd never said. The past hung between them, unspoken but heavy. The porch light flickered, and the wind carried the soft neigh of Spartan. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the dark sky. Amy turned toward the barn, unable to hold his gaze any longer. You should get some rest, she murmured. There's a lot to talk about tomorrow. Ty watched her walk away, his heart breaking with every step. Jack sighed and nodded toward the cabin. You know where your bed is. As Ty walked into the cabin that once felt like home, he paused at the door and looked out at the ranch bathed in silver moonlight. He whispered to himself, I'm home. Finally home. The screen fades to black. The wind howls softly, and a guitar melody begins to play the sound of hope, heartbreak, and the long road back to love. The morning light spilled across Heartland Ranch like a quiet reminder that life had changed overnight. Ty stood by the fence, staring out at the open fields, the same fields that once gave him peace, now filled with ghosts of the past. The ranch looked the same, but everything felt different. Every corner whispered a memory. Amy's laughter, Spartan's gallop, Lyndy's first steps he never saw. He had dreamed of this place every single night, but dreams never told him how heavy coming home would feel. Amy stepped out of the house, a cup of coffee trembling in her hand. She looked at Ty standing by the pasture and felt her heart twist. For years, She'd imagined what she'd say if he ever returned. Sometimes she'd planned to yell. Other times, she just wanted to hold him. But now that he was here, words seemed useless. The silence between them spoke louder than anything she could say. Ty turned as she approached. His voice was low and certain. "I didn't think you'd want to see me." Amy's eyes flashed. "You didn't think I'd want to see you?" "Ty, you vanished. No goodbye. No explanation. I buried you in my heart a long time ago." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "Do you have any idea what that did to us? To Lyndy? She asked for you every night." Ty's jaw tightened as guilt tore through him. He looked away, his voice rough. "I thought I was protecting you. After what happened in Mongolia, after I got sick, I wasn't the same. I couldn't control the anger, the panic. I didn't want Lyndy to see me like that. I didn't want you to live with that." Amy shook her head, her eyes wet with tears. "You don't get to decide what we could handle. You were our family, Ty. We didn't need perfect, we just needed you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the wind moved through the tall grass, carrying the echoes of years lost. Jack appeared from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. His face was serious, lined with concern. "Running away doesn't make you brave, Ty. Facing what you've done, that's the real work." Ty nodded slowly, his voice breaking. "I know, Jack. I was lost. I didn't know how to find my way back." Amy crossed her arms, her voice softer now. "You found it. Somehow." Ty's eyes met hers, full of pain and longing. "You were the way back." Her breath caught, but she didn't reply. She turned away, walking toward Spartan's stall to hide her trembling hands inside the barn. Ty followed her quietly. He reached out, brushing his fingers over the old leather saddle hanging on the wall, the one Amy refused to get rid of, even after all this time. "You kept it," he said, almost to himself. Amy didn't turn around. "I couldn't let it go. Some memories are too heavy to throw away." There was a pause, long, aching, and full of everything they'd lost. Ty finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Amy, I'm sorry for all of it." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered back, "Sorry doesn't bring back the years we lost." He took a small step closer, careful not to break the fragile distance between them. "No, it doesn't. But maybe it's the start of something new." Amy looked at him for the first time without anger, just exhaustion, sorrow, and something softer underneath. Outside, Lyndy's laughter echoed across the yard, chasing away the silence. The sound hit both of them like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ty turned toward the door, his expression softening. "She sounds happy." Amy nodded faintly. "She is. She's everything good left in me." Ty smiled sadly. "Then maybe she can be what saves me too." The camera lingers on Amy's face, torn between heartbreak and hope. As Ty steps outside, the wind lifts the dust, and the faint glow of sunrise paints the ranch gold. Amy watches from the doorway, whispering to herself, "You came home, Ty. But can you stay?" The screen fades to amber light and the slow strum of a familiar Heartland theme. Days passed at Heartland, but peace didn't come easily. The ranch was alive with movement, horses running through the fields, the wind brushing through the aspens, yet beneath all that calm, the air between Amy and Ty still carried unspoken pain. They lived under the same roof again, but as two people learning how to breathe in each other's presence without breaking. One morning, Ty walked into the barn and found Amy brushing Spartan. She didn't look up, but she knew he was there. The air grew thick with memory. For a moment, Ty just watched her the same way he did years ago when she trained wild horses with nothing but patience and faith. He took a breath and said quietly, "You still talk to them the same way?" Amy smiled faintly, her eyes on Spartan. "Horses listen better than people. They don't run away when things get hard." The words hit him harder than she meant them to. He lowered his head, nodding. "You're right. I did run, and I'll probably never stop being sorry for that." Amy sighed, her hands slowing as she brushed the horse's mane. "You can't just fix years of pain with an apology, Ty. But you can show me that you're not going anywhere this time." Ty looked up, his voice firm, steady. "Then that's what I'll do. No more running." That day, Ty began working with Lyndy's pony, a small gray one she named Star. Amy watched from the fence as he taught Lyndy how to guide her gently, how to listen to her breathing. Lyndy giggled every time the pony flicked its ears, and for the first time, Amy saw a glimmer of the man she once loved, the father Lyndy had always needed. Later that evening, Lou organized a family dinner. It was simple, just roasted chicken, laughter, and a few awkward glances. Ty sat quietly at first, unsure where to fit in. But when Lyndy proudly announced she had learned to saddle star just like Daddy showed me, everyone froze for a moment. The word Daddy seemed to echo through the room. Ty's eyes welled up as Jack raised his glass softly. 2-second chances, he said. After dinner, Amy handed Ty a small envelope. I wrote this a long time ago, she said. I never thought you'd read it. The dawn broke over Heartland with a glow so soft it felt like forgiveness. The ranch shimmered under the golden light, each beam stretching across the fields like a quiet promise that life, no matter how broken, always finds a way to bloom again. Ty stood at the edge of the pasture, the early mist curling around his boots. He closed his eyes and breathed in the scent of hay and morning dew, the scent of home. Amy joined him, her steps light but steady. For a while, neither spoke. Words felt too small for what stood between them: grief, love, and the fragile thread of hope pulling them back together. Spartan grazed nearby, his calm presence grounding them both. Ty finally broke the silence. I used to think coming home would fix everything, but now I see. Coming home just gives you the chance to start again. Amy looked up at him, her eyes soft but sure. Maybe that's all any of us can do, start again. They walked together toward the small hill that overlooked the ranch. Lyndy was already there, arranging wildflowers in front of a simple headstone, Amy Fleming's grave. Her tiny voice carried on the breeze. Grandma, Daddy's home now. Ty knelt beside her, his eyes glistening as he placed his hand on the cool stone. You'd be proud of them, Marion, he whispered. They kept this place alive, even when I couldn't. Amy stood behind him, tears catching the morning light. She reached out, placing her hand on his shoulder, not out of pity, but out of peace. As they walked back down the hill, Ty turned to Amy. There's something I want to show you. He led her to the old paddock, the one they'd worked on together years ago. Now, he'd restored it, the fence mended, the earth freshly turned. I want to build something new here, he said. Not to erase the past, but to grow something from it. Amy smiled. A real one this time, the kind that carried both pain and hope. Then let's build it together. The next few days passed like a gentle rhythm. Ty worked with the horses again, his hands steady, his heart lighter. Amy found herself laughing more, not because everything was perfect, but because she could finally breathe without the ache of what she'd lost. And Lyndy, she was the light that bridged them both, a reminder of what they were fighting for. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned into a canvas of pink and gold, Ty and Amy saddled Spartan. They rode together across the open fields, their silhouettes framed against the fading light. The wind caught Amy's hair. She laughed, a sound that felt like coming home. As they slowed near the edge of the river, Ty turned to her. You? No. I used to think I came back for forgiveness. Amy tilted her head, curious. And now? He smiled softly. Now I think I came back to remember what love really means. She reached over, her hand brushing his. Love means staying, even when it hurts. The camera lingers on them, to souls battered by time, standing in the place where everything began. The sky darkens into twilight, and the soft hum of a guitar fades in. Amy's voice narrates the final words. Sometimes, life takes you away from the ones you love, but if your heart is strong enough, it'll lead you back, not to who you were, but to who you're meant to become. Because home isn't just a place. It's the people who wait for you to find your way back. Night had fallen softly over Heartland. The stars shimmered above the open fields like quiet witnesses to a love that had survived everything: distance, loss, and time itself. The ranch lights glowed warm against the dark horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the land. Ty once thought he'd never see again. Inside the barn, the world was still. Only the gentle rustle of hay and the steady breathing of horses filled the air. Ty stood by Spartan's stall, running his hand along the horse's mane. You took care of her, didn't you, boy? He whispered. Spartan snorted softly, as if answering yes. Ty smiled faintly. Guess I owe you too. Amy entered quietly, her footsteps light against the wooden floor. She watched him for a moment, the man she once lost, now standing exactly where he belonged. You used to spend hours here, she said softly, even when you didn't have to. Ty turned, his eyes warm. It's where I always felt calm, like the noise in my head finally stopped. He paused, his voice growing tender. You used to be that calm for me too. Amy stepped closer, her gaze steady. I still can be, if you let me. There was a silence between them, not the cold silence of strangers, but the quiet of two hearts finally learning to beat in the same rhythm again. Ty reached for her hand, and for the first time in years, she didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined, a small gesture that felt like an eternity unfolding. I don't know what the future holds, Ty said honestly. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I can promise I'll never run again. Not from you, not from us. Amy's eyes glistened. Then that's all I need to hear. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the distant laughter of Lyndy chasing fireflies across the yard. The sound was light, innocent, and full of the kind of hope only a child could bring. Amy smiled. She's the best part of both of us, Ty nodded. She's our reason to keep fighting. They stepped out of the barn together, the night air cool and clean. Overhead, the stars stretched endlessly, the same sky that had watched them fall apart now watching them come back together. Jack stood on the porch, arms crossed, a knowing smile tugging at his lips. You two finally done circling each other? He called out. Amy laughed through her tears. Maybe just starting over. Jack tipped his hat. About time. Ty slipped his arm around Amy's shoulders as they walked toward the porch. For the first time since his return, he felt complete, not because the pain was gone, but because it finally had a place to rest. When they reached the door, Amy turned to him, her voice soft but sure. Heartland's always been more than a ranch. It's where we find our way back no matter how far we go. Ty smiled, pulling her close. Then let's never lose our way again. The camera slowly pans upward, catching the wide expanse of the sky as the last of the light fades. The gentle strum of a guitar echoes one final time, familiar, tender, and full of peace. Amy's voice closes the story in a quiet narration. Love doesn't promise perfection. It promises presence through storms, through silence, through the moments when everything feels lost. And sometimes when you least expect it, love comes home. The screen fades to black, the Heartland logo glowing faintly before disappearing into the stars, leaving the audience with one last heartbeat of hope, whispering through the night. Forever begins again at Heartland. Morning rose over Heartland like a quiet confession. The first rays of sunlight brushed over the hills, the fields, the stables, every inch of land carrying the memory of those who had loved, lost, and built something unbreakable here. The ranch breathed again, alive with the hum of life, horses neighing, birds calling, and laughter echoing faintly in the distance. It wasn't just another day. It was the start of a new chapter. Ty stood on the porch, a cup of coffee in his hands, watching Amy and Lyndy in the paddock. Amy's laughter rang out as Lyndy tried to guide Star around the circle, her small voice filled with joy. For Ty, this was more than a sight, it was a redemption he never believed he'd earn. The world felt slower now, softer, as if even the wind had learned to forgive him. Jack joined him, leaning against the railing. You finally look like you belong again, Jack said with a faint smile. Ty exhaled deeply, the steam from his cup curling into the cold air. Maybe for the first time I actually do. Jack nodded. You've been through hell, son, but you made it back. That's what matters. Ty's gaze stayed fixed on Amy and Lyndy. I just want to give them what they deserve: stability, peace, love that doesn't disappear. Jack patted his shoulder. Then don't just promise it. Live it. That's the Heartland way. Down in the paddock, Amy looked up and caught Ty's eyes. There was no anger left, no distance, just a quiet understanding of two people who had weathered the same storm and finally found shelter in each other again. Later that afternoon, the family gathered for lunch under the big oak tree. The table was full: Lou, Lisa, Katie, Tim on his best behavior for once, all talking over one another, laughing in the warmth of togetherness. Ty sat beside Amy, watching Lyndy feed Spartan a slice of apple. Every sound, every smile felt sacred. Lou raised her glass. To family, she said, to second chances, and to coming home. Amy added softly, and to love that never really leaves, it just finds its way back. Ty smiled at her words, his heart full. The clinking of glasses echoed like music, a small but powerful celebration of the bond that held them all together. As the sun began to set, Amy and Ty walked down to the riverbank. The water shimmered gold, rippling softly under the breeze. Ty picked up a smooth stone and tossed it into the river. Watching the rings spread wider and wider, Amy tilted her head. "What was that for?" He smiled. "For every mistake that led me back here. Every wrong turn that somehow brought me home." Amy nodded, her eyes glowing in the fading light. "Then let's never stop finding our way, no matter where life takes us." They stood there, side by side, the ranch glowing behind them, the future stretching wide ahead. The air carried a kind of peace only earned through pain, a peace that lasts. As the final light of day melted into dusk, Amy's voice returned in a soft narration, wrapping their story in warmth. Heartland isn't just a place. It's a feeling, the pull of family, the strength of forgiveness, and the power of love that endures. The sun dipped low behind the mountains, painting Heartland in amber and gold. The day was ending, but something deeper was beginning, a quiet peace that came not from forgetting the past, but from finally making peace with it. The ranch glowed in the soft light, each barn door, each fence post, each field whispering stories of love, loss, and resilience. Ty stood near the paddock, his hands resting on the wooden rail. The laughter of Lyndy drifted through the air as she chased butterflies, her hair glinting in the sunlight. Amy leaned against the gate beside him, her expression calm, her heart full. There were no more walls between them now, only understanding. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was warm, alive, and filled with everything they had fought to rebuild. Ty looked out across the fields. "You ever think about how much this place has seen?" he asked softly. "How many heartbreaks? How many goodbyes?" Amy smiled faintly. "And how many times it's still found a way to start again," Ty nodded. "Heartland. It's not just home, is it? It's a reminder that love survives everything. Even us." Amy reached out and took his hand, their fingers fitting together, effortlessly, like two pieces that had been waiting all this time to find their way back. "Love doesn't always stay easy," she said, "but it stays real, and that's enough." As the sky deepened into shades of rose and violet, Jack's voice called from the porch. "You two coming in? Lisa's got dessert before the kids. Eat it all." Amy laughed, a bright, free sound that echoed through the fields. Ty looked at her and smiled, realizing that laughter was the truest sound of home. They walked back together, their shadows long on the grass, the ranch lights flickering on one by one. Inside, the family gathered around the dinner table. The hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, the warmth of togetherness filled the room. Lou teased Ty about his cooking skills, Tim bragged about a new horse, and Lyndy fell asleep with her head in Amy's lap, a soft smile still on her face. It was messy, loud, imperfect, and completely beautiful. Ty glanced around the room and whispered under his breath, This is forever." Later that night, when the house fell quiet, Amy and Ty stood on the porch beneath a sky full of stars. The world was silent except for the rustle of trees and the steady rhythm of the horses breathing in their stalls. Amy leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. "Do you think we've earned this peace?" she asked. Ty smiled, looking at the stars. "No, but I think we've learned to deserve it." She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Then let's hold on to it." He wrapped his arms around her as the wind carried the scent of pine and hay, the smell of everything they'd fought for. Amy's voice returned one last time as the camera panned over the sleeping ranch, her narration slow and filled with warmth. Heartland isn't just where stories end, it's where they begin again. Through every heartbreak, every storm, every loss, there's something that always brings us back. Family, love, Home. And maybe that's what forever really means, not never leaving, but always finding your way back. The music swells softly, a piano melody mixed with the faint strum of a guitar, and the final image lingers, Heartland glowing under the moonlight, timeless and strong.